May I have your attention, please? Coming to you live from our studios in beautiful downtown East Circle, Ohio. It's The Hallway, starring your host, Kelsey, Hedrick. This is Bill Crawford, along with Susan Weaver, Jason Croxell, and the East Circle High School media students, inviting you to join Kelsey and his guests, John Sayles, Mick Bowdler, Sally Winterburn, and Alan Hayhurst. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Kelsey.
Music. I got a golf swing, right? But I don't golf, I disc golf, so I'm going to do that. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Is everybody settled and good? Good to go? All right. I want to thank you for coming today. We're going to try to wing this and have a good time. We want to thank you for joining us to honor the employees of Hall China. We've got a great show planned for you, and I'm not going to make waste. So let's get started. Oh, let's wait a second. All right, you okay? Everybody good? All right, our first guest actually has nothing to do with, never worked in the pottery, doesn't collect pottery, and she doesn't even live in Ohio, okay? Let's give a lukewarm welcome to the Museum of Ceramic Director, Susan Weaver. So Susan, why are you here if you don't do anything?
Well, basically, I'm here because I'm the director and I wrote the script. Wrote myself right into it.
Well, you look nice. You look very nice.
Thank you. It's nice of you to say that.
Well, I had to because you wrote it in the script.
Actually, I do have a purpose to be here.
Okay.
We're going to play a game, and the game is called How China is a BFD.
Oh, boy. What's BFD stand for?
Big Fantastic Deal.
Okay.
How China is a big fantastic deal. So all the studio audience here has cards. You have A, B, C, and D. We're going to ask you questions, and when you're told to, hold up the letter of the multiple choice answer.
Are you going to read the questions or am I? Because I'm the host.
You're going to read the questions.
I'm going to read the questions?
Yeah, because I wrote the script. I get to do what I want.
Okay. All right. Does everybody have their cards? Remember, don't hold them up until we're...
I don't have any.
That's because you gave me away.
There's a reason for that, Burl.
I'm confused.
He was a bad kid in class too, wasn't he? I just could see it.
All right. Is everybody ready? Don't hold them up till you're ready. All right. First question. Hall China ceased production in 2021 and closed its doors for good in 2022. How many years were these doors open? A, 82 years, B, 90 years, C, 101 years, or D, 119 years. Hold your cards up. So we got D's, we got some C's,
A
B's.
little bit of everything. Pretty smart audience, though. I think we see more D's than others, so the D's have it.
119.
How China ran for 119 years. That makes it the third longest running pottery, and the other two being Harker and Homer. I guess you had to start with the letter H to have longevity in the pottery industry. So.
Okay, our next question. An industry leader, Hall China is known internationally for inventing this cost and time-saving technique. What was it? Was it the single fire method, A, B, the self-molding clay, C, self-glazing clay, or D, self-checkout at retail stores? You got A's and D's?
This is a very smart audience. Yeah, the answer is A, the self-fire method. So, way back in 1908, Robert Hall began work on a single fire method that they'd used actually during the Ming Dynasty. But this meant developing a new glaze that would adhere to the clay body. So in 1911, they fired their first killware using this. It was semi-successful because during it they learned that if they put the temperature at 2400, then that would work. So
Nice.
it was a BFD. It really was.
All right. Next question. This single fire method also produced ware that wouldn't craze. What is crazing? Crazing is A, glaze that is pitted, B, small cracks in glaze, C, discoloration in the glaze, or D, a dance craze performed only by potters. All right, I don't see anything but B's.
Oh. Yeah, the answer is B. What a smart audience we have. And you know, all of you, some of you are antique collectors and you've seen crazing in the older pieces. It was pretty common in the pieces before 1911 to see crazing.
Okay, next one. What is in the basement of the offices of Hall China? A, showers for employees. B, a bowling lane. C, a shooting range. Or D, a pickleball court. C's, I'm seeing C's. A,
Wow. We thought we'd get you on that one.
it was C, a shooting range.
And I'm really not going to tell you anything about that answer because Kelsey's next guest can answer that for you.
Okay,
So,
thank you, Susan.
yeah.
Okay, so my next guest, ladies and gentlemen, really is a BFD. In a good sense. He was part of Hall China Company management for 32 years. He started as the treasurer, then the vice president, the executive vice president, the CEO, and finally the chairman of the board. I don't think he's a behind the desk kind of boring guy either. Let's give a warm welcome to Museum of Ceramics. Welcome John Sayles, the adventurer. Thank you for coming. Be careful of how to see. All right. So I don't know if you could hear back here, but that last question was about a shooting range beneath the offices of Hall China. Is it possible that you might have had something to do with that?
Yes, it did.
So tell us about it.
I competed with a handgun all over the world, and my main competitors lived in the South, or they lived in the West, where they had good weather, so they could practice 12 months a year. And when Jack Hall first gave me a tour of Hall China, we went to the basement of the office building, and it's a long room full of filing cabinets. And I looked at it, and I said, boy, this would be a great pistol range. And so I had maintenance build a pistol range so that I could practice as much as my competition did around the world.
Wow. Well, who all used it? Just you?
No, we had a crew that would, every Wednesday night, we'd go down and shoot, and then we'd go have pizza. Milt Fowler, chief of police
Milt
at the
Fowler,
time,
yeah.
spent a lot of time down there.
Awesome.
And I taught a lot of people how to shoot down there.
So I was told to mention, or to ask you to mention about some awards and some of your accomplishments in shooting. So can you elaborate a little further on that? Or
Well, I've shot,
you said all over the world, like.
yeah, well, I've shot in 5 continents. I've been on
Wow.
4 U.S. teams, both with pistol and shotgun clay targets. In fact, I was shooting clay targets this morning, but
So that was you.
yes, that was me. I've had a lot of success through the years. Been shooting. Well, I grew up in a town called Greenville, Ohio, where Annie Oakley was born, and so youngsters then, I can remember riding my bicycle with my .22 rifle on it. Today they'd roll a squat team.
Oh, yeah.
But I've been shooting all my life and competing most of it.
That's awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the hallway. You were in management for most of your career there, right?
Right.
Or how did you work your way up there? What did you do first when you?
Okay, I was on the board of Hall China, and 44 years ago, a consideration of family-owned and operated companies is succession through the years. And Jack Hall was the president. A man named John Thompson was the vice president, so we knew where the next president was going to come from. And we looked at it and we said, what do we do after John? do we sell the company? Do we close the company? And Jack Hall, I lived in New York City at that time, and he said, why don't you come out to Hall China and be the next successor? And I grew up in a small town in Ohio, so I knew what small towns were like. And Sally and I, my wife and I, we were going to move out of Manhattan just because the taxes were confiscatory.
Yeah.
And we said, well, let's go out to East Liverpool. And 44 years ago, we moved out here.
Wow, that's awesome. You actually answered one of my next questions. So obviously you liked the job, right? What was the best part of your job that you can remember?
Well, there are two things. Number one, and you'll see some of them here, the people. We have, there's a lot of Hall China that I don't miss. Some of the really difficult customers we had, but I miss the people. We had good people, and we had great products. Many of them are in this building here.
Yes, sir.
And Hall China was a quality company, both in terms of the people and the products we made.
That's awesome. Now, you left the company, it says, about the time it was bought by Homer Laughlin?
Yes.
Okay. How did that purchase come about? Was it?
I get asked that question a lot. And I think the more complete answer is there was a book written called Megatrends in 1980, and it talked about the major trends in the United States. And the author of that book said, the United States is going to go away from a country that produces things to an information society. And we did that, as we all know. The way Hall China used to market its products, we had dealers all over the country, small dealers, and their salesmen would sell the Hall China for us. And if we had a dealer who got in trouble, it didn't make any difference because it was a small dealer amongst many dealers. And like we see in today's society, everything started consolidating. Big dealers bought up small dealers. We had some really big dealers who really could pretty much tell us how they were going to deal with Hall China. We were losing control of our marketplace. And we had good relationships with Homer Laughlin for generations. We were close, we knew the people. And so I went to see Joe Wells III. Called him up, said, Joe, I'd like to see you, come on in. And I said, our market's really changing. The synergies of the two of our companies together are compelling. I should either buy you or you should buy Hall China. And I said, Homer Laughlin is much bigger than Hall China. You're younger than me, and you should buy Hall China. And for the folks here who knew Joe Wells III, he was a rather profane fellow, and his comment to my suggestion was colorful, to say the least. But we went ahead and did the deal.
Did the deal.
Yeah, the marketplace really drove that.
That's awesome. Okay, so when how did Hall change to kind of meet the times throughout your time there? Like they mentioned here, plates and cups and saucers, and did you go from just doing one particular type all the time, or did you do a variety of things in your time? Did it grow from, like, tell me from the,
Well,
like,
let's take it from the
how you
beginning.
grew up.
In 1902, when they started Hall China, they made china for homes, and they made spittoons and things like that. In the 1930s, they started making teapots, and when they started decorating the teapots, boy, that marketplace really took off. Coming into World War II, after the end of World War II, most people, when you say, what did the Japanese do after World War II, we think about cars and things like that, but one of the first industries the Japanese did after World War II, they came after the China industry. It was not capital intensive, it was labor intensive. They had low wage workers, and we saw the marketplace really disappearing. We decided to get out of the marketplace of plates, cups, and saucers because we thought the Japanese were going to really dominate that marketplace. And we decided to do things that were in small quantities, which didn't lend themselves to importing, things that were difficult to make, were things which had a very high quality standard to it, which doesn't relate to mass production like the Japanese were doing. An example of that would be we made surgeon's gloves, the forms upon which a surgeon glove is made. It looks like a forearm. There were only 5 companies in the world that could make them because the surface of the glove form had to be perfect. If there was any imperfection in the glaze, you would get a hole in the glove, and there was no point wearing a glove if it has a hole in it. And so we did those kinds of things. We got into the commemorative whiskey bottle business. Whenever there was an event of consequence in this country, people would come to us and say, could you make a whiskey bottle for Prudhoe Bay in Alaska when they discovered oil up there? Fire plugs for a union of firemen. Made all kinds of special whiskey bottles. So we went into the custom, high quality, difficult to make products because the importers weren't going to do that.
So I gotta bring this up because I hear that you're an avid flyer.
Yeah.
Okay, and that you enjoy jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. We have that in common, by the way.
Yeah.
How many jumps did you make?
1,187.
1,187 times this man jumped. That's right. I'm kind of catching up. I've done one. And I loved it. I'd do it again.
That barely confirms I don't have good sense. I started out jumping out. I was at graduate school in New York, and I was studying with a friend, and we turned on the TV. We took a break, and one of the shows that was on was the National Parachuting Championships. And I was watching these fools jump out of airplanes, and in jest, I said to my friend, I think we should do that, expecting all kinds of pushback. And he said, I've always wanted to do that. I thought, "Oh." So we looked in the yellow pages of the New York Telephone, and under parachuting, we found a place in Lakewood, New Jersey. So we called up and said, how do you make a jump? And they said, you come down, we have a first jump, and you'll jump the same day. So we went down, made a jump in the morning, made a jump in the afternoon, and we both said, this is pretty scary stuff. We better go back and do it.
Yeah.
The way I got into, if you think that's foolish, the way I got into flying, we were taking off to make a jump one day, and the plane crashed.
Oh.
And I was injured, and so I couldn't jump for a while, so I said, I might as well take flying lessons. Most people who've been in a plane crash won't even drive by an airplane. And so I've done that forever. I've flown all over the world.
That's fascinating. John, I appreciate you coming.
Okay.
I'm sure Susan does too.
Okay.
So, thank you very much. I want you to be careful stepping down. Yeah. You can go out this way or go back to. All right. Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm finding my stuff. That's the wrong one. I'll put it in the back, that's why. All right, my next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is East Liverpool's own Bard. He's the man in black. Bill Crawford is here tonight in place of Doc Severinsen, which God bless his soul. We found out today he's 95 years old, Doc Severinsen. Let's give it up for former Hall China employee and friend of all of us.
Thanks, Kelsey. And it's always good hearing from one of my favorite people, John Sayles. Okay, so I have a couple musical selections tonight. This one, and thank you so much for including me, I appreciate it. This one I chose because it was written the same year that Hall China started, 1903. A lot of you, everybody probably will recognize this as my version of In the Sweet By and By, written in 1903. can see it afar. For the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore. The melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirits shall sorrow no more. Not a sign for the blessing of rest. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, we will offer our tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His love and the blessings that hallow our days. And the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. All right, thank you very much.
Awesome, Bill. Thank
Sweet
you.
by and by, 1903. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you. Okay, my next guest recently retired from the Fiesta Tableware Company, but was originally hired at the Hall China Company in 1981 as a design assistant to the nationally known ceramic designer, Don Schreckengost. He followed in Shrek's footsteps and became the design director of Hall China. Please give a warm East Liverpool welcome to Mick Bowdler. Just be careful, I have to step up there.
We have a big crowd here.
I know, it's
Are they
good.
friendly?
They are friendly.
Oh no, he's not friendly.
One, maybe not.
It's not what it's supposed to play, so.
Technical difficulties, right? Mick, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
I know you brought some stuff, so don't let me forget. We'll show it.
Sure.
But I got a couple questions, so I want to do that.
Okay.
Our earliest potters came from Staffordshire district in England in the 1840s, and over 100 years later, your story is kind of familiar to that, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you came to work at Hall.
Well, I was at the North Staffordshire Polytechnic in Staffordshire, in Stoke-on-Trent area, and I did my bachelor's in textile design. Actually, I thought myself as a graphic designer at that time, and after my 3 years of that, decided I really wasn't ready to go into the marketplace or the workplace. I was must have been lazy, I guess. I like being a student, so I applied for the industrial ceramic course at the same college, and luckily I was accepted, and I did my 2 years of industrial ceramics there. Basically taking my designs on a bigger scale into a smaller scale, And I did some shape work on the course and found that maybe shape was more my thing versus graphic designer. And the last two designers actually were Hall China were from the same college
Really?
I was at, yes. So they would bring back stories, or I would hear stories of how well they're doing. They got a big house on top of the hill and looking over the lake and everything out. I'm going, man, I really want to, see some of that and work in the United States. And so that kind of got me thinking about working in America. And through the same person that got them the position at Hall China, I was lucky enough to
So
get
that's
my
what actually
position.
brought you to Hall? Is your friends that work there?
Yes.
They worked there first?
Yes. I wanted to work in the States. I don't know why, but,
We're glad you did.
Well, yes, I'm glad I did too, but we have an abundance of designers and it's a very competitive market in England. And I don't know, you just look back on those days and think, why did you make that decision? And best thing I ever did was, was to come here.
I'm almost afraid, but what was your first impression of East Liverpool?
Well, my wife is English. She came with me in 1981, and while we were waiting for acceptance from Hall China that I got the position, we would go into the library and we would look at a map of America and look at Ohio and a little dot East Liverpool, and had no idea what we were really getting into. And it kind of didn't start off that well because we came in September, a week before. We came for a week before we came officially in November, and they had hired a car for me to drive. Of course, I didn't drive then. I was 24 and I was in college, didn't have any money. So, of course, my wife had to drive, and that was a shock for her because she was a young girl at that time, and
To drive here first?
driving on the other
yeah.
side of the road, and coming.
It's funny, we think the same way, don't we?
Coming from Pittsburgh through Midland and seeing all the steel
The
mills
mills
and
and-
stuff
yeah.
like that, and no disrespect to Midland, but it wasn't the most quaint looking place
Right.
along the river. But and because when we come from, my wife and I, it's very picturesque. We have small little villages. You see it on TV, and you see those kind of places, and that's kind of where we came from. So, visually it was like a shock. I think my wife cried all night that first night.
Well, we are glad you're here.
Yes.
So how did you manage, like, buying a house and getting started that way? Did you, when you first started working there, obviously the pay was a lot less than it is today.
Yes.
Right.
Well, we came with very little money. In fact, we came with $500 at that time, and we had our passports and our contract, and we put them inside the back of the seat of the airplane, and we get off the Pittsburgh airport, and we actually at that time we had we were driven to our house behind the factory, and we realized, where's their money? Where's their contract? We had left them on the airplane, and they'd gone on to San Francisco, and it was like, wow, didn't start off that well, but they managed to be able to get all that back and so forth. So we were fortunate that the company had rented, or not rented, but they owned a lot of the houses at the back of the factory, and one came available. So we were very fortunate to be able to move
move
into
into
that
there
not
first.
So, yeah.
Well, what was it like to work with Don Schreckengost?
Well, as a young designer, not knowing a whole lot about life, especially in a new country, and working for such a prestigious company as Hall's, it was a remarkable experience. I mean, I think he was in his early 70s when I arrived, and most people were retired by then, but not Don. He just loved his work and was working for Hall's for 3 days a week at that time, and he just was such a unbelievable individual, not just talented, but as a person, and his stories of his life. I mean, it was just, wow, you can't dream about a situation where your first job is with a person of his talents and knowledge. It was
I didn't
unbelievable.
know him at all. So.
Yeah.
So where do you get your designs or your ideas for your designs?
Well, it wasn't an easy time my wife and I came. It was in the early '80s, '81, and it was high interest rates, and we went through, a recession during that period of time, and so most of the designs were basically salespeople. We had our own force of salespeople going out into the marketplace, talking to restaurants and hotels and people like that, basically bringing ideas back from them. So it was a little less pressure on me to actually come up with new ideas. The ideas sort of came to me, so I had to interpret those ideas from our salespeople and try to understand what the customer really wanted, and so I would then do drawings, and they would take those drawings to the customers, and they would tweak it here and there. So for most of the designs were sort of market driven and not me sitting in my little
Just
tower
coming up with
ideas. I mean, there was times where internally we would have meetings and we would come up with we would decide that we wanted a new dinnerware line, and we would then certainly Shrek and I, we would bounce ideas back and forth and come up with that. But for the most part, it was really market driven. A lot of the ideas, yeah.
I see you called him Shrek too, so I don't feel bad now.
Well, actually, I didn't to his name. I always called him Don.
Don?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So you've been in the design business a long time. So how's it changed from the time that you started to when you retired?
Yeah.
Was there a lot of change in it, or in how they did it, or?
Well, it was all 2D. We didn't have computers at that time, so it was taking an item like this and trying to visually create that as a design. You would do a sketch that would be that profile, sketch be that profile, sketch that profile, and sketch that profile. So you'd have these isometric drawings of the item, and so it was a lot of visually trying to picture the item in your head of what this looked like on a flat surface. As time went on, and I have to credit Mr. Sayles for this, when Don passed away in I think it was 2001, because our studio was at the back of the factory, above maintenance. He said, so when Don passed away, he said, I don't want you all the way over there. I want to bring you closer to the main office. So they gave me an office there, and he says, I don't want you drawing on paper anymore. I'm going, wait a minute, that's all I've done all my life is sketch on paper. That's what my left hand is for. And he says, no, I want to get you a computer, and we're going to do 3D design. And they gave me 1 day of training. I had a guy come in, and you remember those days, Bill?
Yeah.
He came in, sat there for a day, and then left, and I didn't see him ever again. And so it was up to me to learn the program.
He caught on really fast. He was a great student. For somebody that did everything with pen and pencil and paper, he was not intimidated by that software and did great things pretty quickly. I got to give him credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about this. Okay, this is yours, right?
It is.
And the design, I'll let you handle it. So tell us about it.
It's not a very interesting piece. We call it a pasta bowl. It was, I think, driven by the market needs. Somebody wanted a 22-ounce bowl, which is basically, we would calculate the capacity at that point right there and how much liquid you could get in a piece like this. The weight was important. The wide rim was important. So there was a lot of restrictions on this piece. So obviously, with the ounce capacity and the width, the outside diameter kind of generates itself, and the profile is just something that, of course, it has to not fall over. You can't have a narrow rim in the bottom, so you're restricted there a little bit. So, but there was a typical item that Hall China would do. We had numerous pasta bowls and items that mostly food was served on and brought to the table or cooked in.
So is that something that would have been 3D printed? I mean, your
This
design
was
for
not
that?
back then.
Okay.
This was well, it's fairly easy to do a plate because you just do a round circle. Even any of you guys could probably draw a circle like that, and then you have a profile there, and it pretty much takes care of itself. So this is an easy piece, and obviously it's a very easy piece to do as a 3D
For you.
thing.
Well, let me get this other piece, because I'm
Yeah.
interested in this. Now, I'll hand you that.
Could you speak up, please?
Yes, sure.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this will move closer or not.
It's not connected.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is
Well, that's
one.
why.
This is one of my favorite pieces. It's the 100th anniversary piece that we did for Hall China from 1903 to 2003 at that time, and of course it had to be a teapot, the item, because we're known for our teapots. So this was basically taking elements from many teapots that we had made over time, from the 20s, the 30s, and 40s, taking little elements from those teapots and putting them all together into one teapot. And it was kind of rewarding because a lot of the collectors actually picked up on that. So my idea seemed to have hit the right spot on this particular item, and the decal around it is just a fancy gold leaf decal, but it's one of my favorite pieces.
And you
that we
designed that?
I did design this one, yes.
That's awesome.
Thank you. It's a funny story, actually. My son and daughter, they're plate turners also, and you would know what that means, right? So they've grown up and got their own families, and they would be out at restaurants, and they would send me pictures of the pieces, turn it over after they ate the food, obviously. They would turn it over, and it would be Hall China, and they would say, did you design this, Dad? And I'd go, no, I don't think so. And it got to a point where they would say, well, what did you do at Hall China?
That's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Bowdler.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Be careful stepping down.
Okay.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work with Mick both at Hall China and Humberlock with FTC, and he's a good dude, and he was lucky to have a mentor like Shrek. If you want to go down a rabbit hole of interesting people, Don Schreckendoss and his brother Victor Schreckendoss, Google those guys and see. And his son Gary actually still lives over on St. Clair Avenue. But anyway.
Wow. I thought he was just a soccer coach. All right, my next guest started at Hall in 1976 as a seasonal worker and then stayed for the next 45 years. She served as union steward and president and calls her fellow workers at Hall's family. Please give it up for Sally Winterburn. Have a seat, be careful of your step.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, this is going to be interesting, so
I was excited about this
I'll
one.
bet you are. They all will be too.
Okay. So, tell us, why did you go to Hall's in the first place?
I went to Hall China to make money for Christmas in 1976. I started August 25th, and November 15th, they went on strike. So I had no money for Christmas. Didn't get back to work till the end of February. And I just decided, well, it's fun. I'll stay. I mean, I was the first female caster, so that was rough.
That's actually my next
I'll
question.
betcha.
So we know you were a caster, but can you tell the audience what a caster does? And isn't a caster generally a man's job?
It was 100% man's job. There was 168 men and me. And you pour slip into a mold, you dump the mold, You dump it into a big can, you jerk it clear over to a hole, dump the hole in the hole and go back over. You have to empty the molds. You have to finish the wear and carry it out, and it better be right, because if it's not, they'll send it back. And it's a very heavy, heavy job, but I had two choices, mold making or casting. And they took me to the mold shop first, and I couldn't lift that big bucket full of slip. Back then, they are plaster. Back then, they didn't have a crane to do it. And I tried to, I said, okay, let me try something else. So they took me to the mold casting shop, and I said, I can do this. So that's what I did. I stayed. Yep.
Okay, so you've described Halls as a family. So what does that what's that mean to you? Tell us about that.
I spent more awake time with those people than my own family. That's just how it worked. And everybody, if something happened to somebody, it didn't matter who it was, everybody jumped on the bandwagon and helped them. You didn't have to like them, but you darn well helped them. And most of the time, we got a few squabbles, but other than that, everybody got along. There were so many husband and wives, and you had to be careful who you talk about, because there was everybody's related to everybody. So that's it. What? That's your aunt? Oh no, I'm just kidding. I like her.
So tell us a little bit about being like union president.
Union president was a nightmare on both sides. A nightmare for the company because I gave them a hard time, and a nightmare for me because they gave me a hard time, other people. So you had to work with it, that's all. Everybody knows it takes two sides to make it work, and sometimes the union people didn't want to think about that, and management, maybe once in a while they were a little slack on raises and stuff, but all in all, I think everybody tried to make it last, tried to make it work, but I did it for 17 years. I think I was union president, and then I was so tired of it, I just gave up and let somebody else take the reins. That was right before, about 2 years before I retired, somebody else became president.
That must be like that. I actually worked at Faro Porcelain, and we had union management difficulties all the time there towards the end. But they did try. Everybody tried to get along.
Tried, yeah.
Yeah, so that must just go around.
It was a
the board.
two-way street.
Now, you're the only female on the show today, so you know pottery women have something of a reputation as a wild bunch.
Really? I bet there's one gentleman out there, I won't mention Jack Roder's name, that would agree with you 100%. He always tells me to be quiet.
Do you think that reputation is earned, or?
Hell yeah, it's earned. Yeah. Darn straight. Woo, 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 woo.
Well, I know you brought some stuff.
Oh, I did bring some stuff, so you'll have to, like it or not, here it comes.
Pass this to you,
Thank
and you
you.
can pull out what you want.
Yeah, I will. First of all,
So just tell us what you're bringing.
This is a little bud vase, and they were. You think, oh, there's nothing to that, but you had to glue the plaster. You had made two different pieces, and you put them together, and then you had to cut it, and it just came out perfect. That's a perfect one. I'm sure I made that one. I tried to bring some fun stuff. This is an ashtray. You don't see these very often, but you put the matches in here, and it was it's for sale if you want to buy them. They're nice. You put the matches in here, and
Yes, I'm sorry.
Come up, please.
Yes,
Yeah, because it's blending in with the white tablecloth.
I got you.
there you go.
We'll leave them out there so you can.
Yeah, I'll let you leave them out. I'll leave them out there. And then, because I was the only one of the first female casters, was the first female, I had to be, I'll go along with anything the men said. Well, they came up with this new mold that they tried to get me to make, and I said,
Give me the drum roll.
oh boy, trust me, I had a hard time with it, but we made condom molds.
I'm not sure I want to hold that up.
Now, I painted it red. It wasn't red, but I painted it red. But when I went into work and there was a line of these on my bench, I said, "You've got to be kidding." They said, "Oh no, remember? You like being a caster. You want to be a caster. You have to be a caster." So I said, "Okay," and then that's what I'll be. It lasted about a week, and then I lost total control of myself. I couldn't function doing that, so I was sweating bullets. And they switched them out. But they were just doing to torment me a little bit. It worked, but I didn't waver. I never wavered against any of them ever, not once. You can ask John Sayles that. I just couldn't. I couldn't give in to anybody. If you're going to do it and I have to do it, I will do it. I made glove forms that were so tall, I had to stand on a stool, and when you dumped them, there's only two on a bench, you had to lay them over and set them back up, but I wasn't giving in, and 45 years later, I didn't give in.
Good for you. When it became known that Hall was closing, what was the reaction among the people?
Everybody was devastated. Everybody. Everybody might have complained about Hall China and stuff, but everybody. I can't think of one person who said, "Good, I'm glad the bastards are out here." You know, I'm sorry. They told me to watch my swearing, so I had to. But then
You're
again,
fine.
they told me what. But everybody was upset. We tried. At the end, it wasn't getting any easier for Homer Laughlin to keep it open, and it wasn't getting any easier for Hall China for it to survive. It was only common sense to put them together. I don't know why Homer Laughlin didn't come over there, but they didn't.
I think we heard one. All right. So I think you actually told us, but after 45 years at Hall's, I'm sure you've got a lot of stories. Is there any particular you'd like to share with us?
I'll share this one story because it's very funny to me. You might not think so, but I was quite a jokester. I can't imagine you think that I would be, but I had a stuffed skunk, and I took it to work. And I was in front of the elevator that goes to the basement to get the molds, and I thought, oh, this would be cute. I'll stick it in the far corner because when the skunk's tail's up, you know it's going to spray. So I sat back there and I waited, and I'm like here there from the kid opens the door and says, "Oh my God, a skunk!" So then next thing you know, all the management people up there standing back like this, looking at it and saying, "Somebody call animal control! Call animal control!" His tail's up, and I was dying by then. Everybody, I was laughing so hard. My boss turned and looked at me and said, "She said he swore at me." And I won't say what he said, but he went and got it. And he took it and he threw it at me like a football. And I caught it and I said, "Come on, that was funny." And Platt said, "Write her up right now for horseplay." I said, "Well, let's make a skunk play. Come on, seriously. If you're going to do it right." It was a skunk. It was not a horse. And I did get wrote up. It wasn't a verbal. I usually get a verbal first, but for that stunt, I got it because they already had animal control on the line. I didn't know that. I had no idea. But that was just one of many things I didn't. We won't get into all of them, but that was one of my favorites.
All right, Sally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll leave these up on the table.
That's fine.
Just want to help you down. Thank you. You can go back out here. You're on, Bill Crawford.
All right.
Let's give a hand for Bill. He's going to do another one.
This is great. It brings back a lot of memories. So this is going to be fun. This is a song from 1944. It's my mom's favorite song, Myrna Crawford. You may know her. So I've done this before with a couple songs for Fiesta stuff. It's always a lot of fun. So I took this song from 44, which you'll know, and I changed the words around a little bit. So in honor of this event tonight in Hall China. So hopefully you like it. Gonna take a sentimental journey. Gonna put that clay in the mold. Gonna make a sentimental journey to the Hall China days of old. Got my crew, no time for a vacation. Cutting wood for more warlords. All the time our salesmen cross the nation. Every day new slip was poured. 7, that's the time we start at 7. Everyone except for Kevin, counting every piece of earthenware that we had there. Never thought those parts could be so ugly. We just don't know where we'd fall. Gotta take the sentimental journey to Hall 7. That's the time we start at 7. Everyone except for Kevin. against anybody that might have worked there called Kevin. It just rhymes.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, my next guest is pottery jack of all trades, having worked at Hall China since 1995. He's been a jiggerman, a caster, a kiln worker, mold maker, and is now a batcher. Please welcome Fiesta Tableware Company employee, Alan Hayhurst. So, you worked at Hall China from 95 to 2021?
Yes.
And when they quit production, what was it like working there about that time?
It's depressing there because they're used to having everybody there to talk to and all that, and it just everything they're closing up and everything getting moved out, and it's just sad.
Sad to see it going down. So, your the family atmosphere like that Sally talked about, you agree with that?
Yeah, very much so because everybody knew everybody. Everybody took care of one another.
Yeah, and that depression you think was with everybody there like that?
Yeah,
or-
pretty well. I say there about everybody there went through.
Okay, but I'm told to ask about your love of that work though. You've been there, you were there for a long time, and it just says to ask about your love of work.
Oh yeah, I love my
like
job.
being there?
I love being there all the time. So
And your father?
yeah, my dad there worked there for over 30 years. I was trying to follow in his footsteps and everything. I was hoping to make it as long as he did there, but it ended up there. It didn't work out that way. But
Out of well, what did your dad do when he was there?
he was a press puller.
And out of the different jobs that you had, the jiggerman and kiln hand and that, what was your favorite?
I like my batching.
Batching?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Tell us what that is.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's where I
Well,
was going.
it's the batcher moved up and down the tracks, and I put material in there to make slip. So there, I'd have so much materials that went into the batcher, then it'd unload into a mill, which would mix up. Then I'd have slip it come out. I put it into my rough hole. Then I had to transfer it through a lawn into my smooth hole. Then from the smooth hole, it got pumped up into the presses, where made the clay to where we make this.
Awesome. So, jiggerman. Yeah. Tell us what a jiggerman does.
Well, a little bit there in the jigger shop. There you went. We had machines, and I worked back on the floor, but most of it there on the back in the back. I took care of jiggermen and everything. I'd take their clay off there and help them there with that, like Pee Wee and all them. In the jigger shop there, I worked on the A-cup, the wall job, and stuff like that, run machinery, all that there, where we made a number of different items there. We made plates, we made cups, saucers, and stuff like that.
So, when you talk about what's like truck pulling, what's truck pulling?
Ooh, that's a little bit rougher job. Yeah, so truck pulling is when the women and all that there, they finish wear, machines finish wear and everything, and they put it on a truck. Then I have to transport that truck, pull it across the floor to the next area where it was going to get used at. So I'll be putting them in a dryer, they have to dry, then I have to pull them from the dryer, take them to the color room, and that's where they got their glaze and everything they're put onto them.
When you're saying the truck, it's like a cart, a pull cart, or
Oh, it's a big metal cart that's got bars that go through, and you can put your boards, wear boards, where you can put your wear boards through, but you had to be very careful so you didn't bust your wear up.
I said earlier that I worked at Faro, and when we loaded the kills, they were like that, but we didn't have carts or trucks, anything like that. We didn't.
Oh yeah, we had to pull them from one end of the plant to the other end of the plant.
It says, well, tell me about the kiln work.
Kiln there, that was a fun job there too. You can have good days and you can have bad days, because it all depending on who was placing the wear before you. So then sometimes there you got a lot of junk wear there where somebody else didn't want to do, and you got it put on there for you. But then a lot of times there you might have I mean, pitchers and all that there. We could put usually 4 pitchers to a slab. Then you had there 6 slabs, so there you can load them up. We did like Bodo Cubs. We did everything there for Longenberger and stuff like that, and hands. I was there. I got lucky. I was there. I worked on a kill there where we did hands there for a little while.
So I've never been in there to see, how things worked at Halls. Did they have like the round kills, or did they have like a straight tunnel type kill?
We have like a tunnel kill, but we did have a circle kill and everything that was in there, but I wasn't around at that time, therefore. I got to be the process of tearing it down, but I never got to see it run.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So how when you mentioned, it could be hazardous, how did they stay healthy? I mean,
Well, we had outfits that was supplied to us, gloves, masks, and all that there. And then as time went on, there we got half respirators, but half face was what they was called. And then we got full face. Now, full face there, that's what I run when I was batching, because they keep the material from going into my eyes and everything like that.
So when you're batching, though, it's actually a liquid at that point?
No, it's a powder.
Powder?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had silos and everything there where I put into the batcher and all that. So there's a lot of dust.
Okay. So there's a rumor among potters that Halls was haunted.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, a lot of shadow people there, and then we had a few, like I said, that now my experience, and I've mentioned to a few other people, and then they started having experiences, everything. So, but we had a guy, it was the batcher before I was, Dookie, and everything, and I think when he passed away, he walked in front of my batcher, to let me know that it's all right what I'm doing, I'm assuming, and everything, because I didn't see him no more after that. So I'm assuming I was all right. Then we had a few night watchmen that passed away and all that, and I could swear that they was at the end of my track there, they was watching to make sure I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And people didn't really believe me until they started working back there, and then they said, well, somebody just walked underneath me. And I said, there's a door there. They can't walk underneath you. And they're thinking, so they come down there, and then they'd be hearing conversations going on back there. So yeah, there was a few incidents where
I'd be working all day like that.
I had a few people where it was working afternoon. They wanted daylight. They didn't want to work afternoon or midnight. No.
That's funny, 'cause like City Hall, it's the same way at City Hall. And at night, if you work at City Hall, you'd swear you're not alone in that building at times.
It's a feeling that there's somebody there, but you just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not looking.
Yeah,
I got a gun. I'm not looking. Well, Alan, thank you. Thank you
You're
very
more
much.
welcome.
Oh, that's right.
I brought in.
Yeah, this thing's kind of heavy. I don't want
So I'm a caster now, not a batcher. I cast their handles for the wear, and I brought mold ends for you to see.
Here, Alan, I'll let you handle it, and I'll end up with it on the floor.
So this is what we cast handles and everything over there now. That's what I do. And we'll break this top out, and I'll pull these out, and then there'll be a finisher that finishes the handles, a handle finisher, and then they get put on down, and then they'll get put on the cups and everything over there.
So that actually ends up being...
Well, it will be put onto a cup and everything, but nothing like this.
That's awesome.
So right now they're kind of cracked, but they're...
So Shadow Guy did that, I don't know. Okay, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You could just stay there. Okay, so I'd like to bring back up Susan, and she'll explain to you what's going to happen next.
So before we bring our guests back out for a question and answer time, so if you have questions, this will be your chance. This is sort of like the credits at the end of the show. So we have a lot of people to thank. And I want to start with Jason Croxo and the Potter News Network. It's the guys you see in the back. all day setting up and working on this. I also want to thank our Doc Severinsen, Bill Crawford.
Slash Ed McMahon.
Oh, yes. I also want to thank Liz McIlvain and Jim Waddle. As Hall China was closing, we made many trips up there. They gave us rare Hall pieces and a lot of great information for our archives. So they made sure that Hall's history is going to be preserved here in the museum. And Liz is here. Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge a special guest who's here tonight, and that's Peg Thompson. We're so glad to have you here tonight, and Thompson family is just synonymous with Hall China.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. So,
I don't have it.
oh, here.
You wrote this stuff. All right. We absolutely want to thank the thousands of potters who made Hall China internationally known pottery.
I would like to see a show of hands of how many of you worked in a pottery. I know first of all, let me see the Hall people first, because there's a lot of Hall people here. Thank you. All pottery workers. Yeah, so we got quite a few.
We also want to thank our guests tonight for sharing their stories with us. So thank you guys.
We have to remember that those Hall China people and all the other pottery people spent their paychecks in East Liverpool. Pottery people made this town. They made our schools, our hospitals, and our stores. So we're eternally grateful to all the potters.
Additional thank yous to Scott Shepard, the East Liverpool City Schools, and Wise Buys Carpets for helping with our props that we used tonight. So let's get back to the guests so that they can open up questions.
So can we
okay?
have John, Sally, come on up here, Nick, you stay put.
I'm going to put that back up there for Sally. I don't.
I don't know if there's a number one piece, but whenever a new item would come to us to be made, we had a book with numbers in it, and we just click off the next number. Nothing very fancy.
I have to ask what a waxer does.
So my grandmother would pick up the piece of ware and she would put the stamp on the bottom and then she would wax the ring.
Okay.
So the wax kept it from sticking in the kiln,
Okay.
to the boards or whatever that was in there. Yeah, yeah.
And who's ever next to you, if you have a certain person, tell who you're asking, Bill.
Does anybody know what the total number of different teapots you may be?
Boy,
Wow.
don't know.
And shapes, I mean, it's certainly shapes and then they're patterned different.
There's a whole bunch.
There you go.
That's a research for you to do. And there you go.
Now, let me know.
Anyone else? I guess we told them everything they needed to know, right? Well, I thank all of you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. You don't have to listen to my spiel about what's coming up because you got a card there of upcoming events, and I hope we'll see you at some of them. So, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the hallway.